All right. Today we're going to be talking about dating, modern dating, how it feels like a game now. Like when we look at modern dating these days, it doesn't really feel like your simple two people meet and build a life together. It's not like that anymore, right? It feels like a game. Like everyone's trying to rank each other, trying to win the best outcome, like not best as in having the best heart, right? Not the best character, not the best ability to build peace together, but best in the three things we can see quickly, which is wealth, which is the resources that buys you things. Okay, then genes, which is the looks, right? Then status, which is usually the power, but not all the time, but status. So in most rooms, online or offline, it doesn't matter anymore. It's most people are trying to date up in at least one of these three categories. So they want to date up, not down. So we can see the problem here. So everyone's trying to get better outcome, right? So yeah. So where do we go into then? So we reach a ladder called 125 ladder. 125 ladder. So the five is the top tier and one is the bottom tier. So if the world works perfectly, right, it will be okay. 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3. Okay. If it's the perfect world, 5 will meet 5, 4 will meet 4, 3 will meet 3, 2 will meet 2, 1 will meet 1. So this is the perfect world, right? So it's like a clean, stable version of life. Means everyone has a mate, right? But what happens in reality is this. Everyone wants 5, right? The 5 wants 5, 4 wants 4, 5, 3 wants 5, 2 wants 5, 1 wants 5. I feel like this works both ways these days, but I would say it's more woman centered, and this it will be the man because women would naturally want to protect themselves from getting a bad outcome, but men are open to just have sex with anyone. That's just facts, right? So so the logic is every woman, most women will want to go for the 5, and if they can't get 5, they want 4 at least. So what happens to 3 to 1? So they just choose to be alone, right? Because they don't see the point of playing this game. They don't know what to do. So what's the point? So when there's too many people aiming at the too few people, something obvious happens, right? Which is the aspiration bottleneck. So everyone aims at the top. Everyone wants the top. So the attention piles up at the top. And we know the result is the top tiers, the five, the five are filled with options, right? That everyone below stucks. So they're always waiting. Waiting for what? Like, okay, they will usually be like, okay, I'd rather be alone than to choose wrong, right? This is from the woman's side. This is from so they want the man. They rather be alone than to choose the wrong one, right? Then this is for the men. I'll wait until I level up because they're at 3, 2, 1 stuck. So they'll wait until they raise into a 4 or raise into a 5. They'll just wait, okay? So naturally, with this all this waiting, right? You can, you know, marriage will slow down, commitment slow down, and people stay in this limbo for a really long time. And this is why we have such a low birth rate these days, is because this happens within the dating game. It's facts. It's what we are facing these days. So, okay, let's go to how to understand this top tier attention dynamic, right? The pattern is extreme. It's very extreme because a high tier man wants access to everyone below. So men, women, they want all of it. They want to take all of it. And this is when you see like rich people or people that are powerful to have multiple women in their life, even if they're not married, right? They'll have multiple women and multiple kids with them. And this is what happens. This is what happens, right? This is the extreme version of it, right? And then, like, there's almost no, like, there's no downside socially anymore. It's like they just have like endless options. So they don't really struggle anymore because everyone wants them. So they have everyone. So then when it comes to women, a high tier woman only wants the top, right? Because she's thinking about security, protection, and the best future. They want the best, right? Of course they're gonna aim for the five. The high tier one especially. The low tier one, they might settle for four, right? But the high tier ones, they think they're five, they will only go for five. So when the top becomes the center of the attention, those at the top get overwhelmed with options. Those below compete harder. Then commitment becomes a rare thing. So because nobody wants to lose the game. Because it's a game, they have to play, and losing it's not an option. So they will choose to wait rather than losing the game. Okay. Like any questions, please just throw in the comments and I'll discuss with anyone. I think a lot of what I'm saying, this is my perspective, right? It's how I see what's happening around us. So it's not like it's 100% perfect, correct, but it's something to think about, because it's questionable. Like you would think, why is the birth rate going low and why is dating so unproductive? And yeah, this is what happens. Okay. So next is sex, right? About sex. Sex, it's separated from reproduction these days. That the whole game change. It changes the whole game, right? Because now sex is not just reproduction. You're not trying to have more kids. It's a lot to tie to validation, pleasure, hoping, attention, temporary comfort, and feeling chosen. So instead of sex being commitment, reproduction, family building, and protection, it becomes these things that are emotional. It's no longer physical, right? It's emotional. So it used to have a really clear purpose, but now it's gray. We don't know what is it exactly for, but everyone participates in this game, right? Everyone participates in this game. So everyone is like having this contradiction. Okay, people are having sex casually, right? Having sex casually, but reproduction becomes scary. It's the scariest thing for anyone that's participating in sex casually, right? Is to have a kid out of nowhere, right? So it's like it comes down to this big confusion. Like I want closeness, but not the responsibility, right? You want the desire, but not the consequences, right? You want the feeling, but not the future. So it creates this big contradiction. Like everyone's anxious, confused on what they should do because sex is separated from reproduction. When re- reproduction has to happen like an accidental pregnancy, then everyone goes crazy, you know? So you get this culture where sex is a normal, right? Sex is normal. But having children is almost treated like a threat. So how do we even reproduce then? We have the problem with high tier men, high tier women. We already have that issue. And now we have another issue that sex is no longer about reproduction. So people have sex with anyone, right? Let's say a woman, same concept, right? Would have sex with a let's say they have sex with three. They wouldn't want a kid with three, right? That's a confusing part. They have sex with five. They would want a kid with five. Maybe they have it with four. Maybe they want a kid. But from the men's side, maybe they have sex with everyone, but they don't want a kid. Or maybe they want a kid with everyone. You know how confusing this is? This is suicidal for who we are as human beings, right? Because it's confusing. So what should we do? So everyone's confused. And that's why the fertility rate it's getting really low everywhere. It affects everywhere. Especially a place where this exists. The status couple effect. Basically, the relationships is just a social proof. It's no longer just building peace together, having a family together. It it matters to have that social proof to show that people that you have photos together, you're signaling a lifestyle. We look successful. You know, you're not behind in life. I'm chosen by someone valuable. So it becomes a status object instead of a home, a relationship, a proper peace, a proper place to find compassion, love, mercy, gratitude, forgiveness. It's like you don't find all these things anymore. So a relationship used to mean a home, loyalty, responsibility, protection, family, right? So right now it's all gone. So the shift is from life. Like, are we building a life together to building identity? So it creates this whole game where everyone is anxious, right? Because if the status becomes the meaning, stability disappears, doesn't exist. You don't know what the hell's going on because status is not it's not something that is always guaranteed, right? It doesn't stay still. But if you have a family, you find peace, everything it's still. right? Although there are ups and downs, but mostly still. But status never stays still. Will always change. Never know. Right? So right now everyone's confused and anxious about what to do. So then we lead to a lot of problems, right? Like, okay, we have reasons to not want kids these days, right? Because we are systemized to think this way that everyone is not capable of having kids these days. It's not only about selfishness anymore. It's that this environment around us, it makes family feels like forming a family feels very risky because we have lower trust. We have lower cohesion, and we have a lot of oh, arrogance. Right? So you don't trust your partner, you don't trust your community to help you, you don't trust the government to help you, you don't trust if there's a future, you think there will be a world war. So everyone has this low trust, low cohesion. Is like you don't have values aligned with your partner. People live in very separate realities these days. Like people have very different opinions that are very big in polarity. So peace feels harder to achieve. It's like everyone's functioning in different frequencies. So having a kid is gonna cause a lot of trouble. And it's what a lot of people think, right? And it usually comes from the arrogance and ego because we don't humble ourselves anymore. We think that we are always right. So like when you have a opinions in polarity, right? It's like, okay, you have one opinion and your partner has another opinion. You don't find the middle ground together. You want to know that you are right and they're wrong. And they think the same way too. So how do you compromise and grow through the relationship to have kids? And this happens in a lot of society these days, especially people who cares a lot about money. This was the point. I can just make money, like you just make money. Like what's the point of kids anymore, right? Like kids, money. We think that money builds stability, so you want to be stable, right? Then it's lower stability. Some would even think this brings happiness. This lower the happiness. But we all know that money ultimately doesn't lead to, right? Let's say you make money until you're 80. Your first regret is not having kids. So you're working backwards and it doesn't make sense, but it's what's happening these days. So we have this problem, right? We know it's empty, but we do it anyway. We all feel it, right? Most people feel it because we chase wealth, status, thinking that it will bring happiness, security. But we know it doesn't. No, wealth cannot be peace, right? It's to cannot create peace. There's no peace. You will create loneliness, right? This too creates this problem, and we know the casual sex doesn't heal the heart. Like let's say you're somehow depressed or something, or you're anxious about something. Having sex is not gonna solve that. right? We know that. We all know that. We all know it won't solve anything, right? But we do it anyways, right? And it seems like you're winning. Let's say you're winning. It will not stop regret, right? It's like, let's say, it goes back to the same thing. Let's say you're 80. You want kids, not the money. This That's when you regret. It won't stop this. This is what's gonna happen, right? So this whole thing becomes a game we all play. We all play this game, right? So okay. We all play this game, so it becomes a norm. Nobody wants to step out of the game because it will be look like they're lost. They step out of the game. So no one will step out again. Everyone stays in this game, and the whole generation is tired, confused, emotionally bruised, but chase the same scoreboard. Everyone wants the same thing, but they don't look inwards to find if maybe this game is wrong. You know, just play the game without realizing that maybe the game is not right. So this happens. So where this leads then? Where does this go? If family formation collapses long enough, the end result is very, very simple, right? Babies. So old people die. So if there's no babies, who's gonna grow up to have energy? Right? You know the young people are the ones with energy, right? But old people low energy. So how? So without this energy, there's no renewal. Nothing changes. It stays the same. Renewal, no, no hope. So what happens? This happens is usually wars, but who is fighting at the wars? Exactly. It doesn't make sense. So the whole civilization becomes exhausted, and not like okay, humans just disappear overnight, right? They don't, but because the system doesn't replenish itself, we will somehow disappear, right? Somehow, right? A lot of people would say, oh, overpopulation, everything, but let's be really real here. If we don't populate, right? We don't reproduce, we don't do all of this, where does our civilization goes is usually it disappear within, because it's a system, right? It's just goes on and on, that if everyone plays this game and it keeps going on and on, at the end is that we are all missing, right? And we don't think about this anymore. We don't think long term anymore. We want short term gains, right? What benefits me right now, what upgrades me right now, what keeps me entertained right now. So everyone wants short term interests. So the future doesn't exist. Doesn't exist anymore. So where do we go then? But what happens to us? This is just what fertility drop is. So it's a quiet collapse signal. Quiet collapse. It's happening. It's happening, and it will continue happening if we continue to play this game. Because this game is gonna lead to this trend, right? It's already happening many places. South Korea, China. You all know that, right? Then in the West, they are immigration, right? They do it through immigration. So they will still have kids, but it's still low. But this trend, very obvious, this too, especially South Korea. Right? So the trend is it used to be 1950 is 4.9, 2020 is 2.3. So basically half. You have dropped half. It's basically when you fall below this 2.1, replacement doesn't exist. So society will age. It will offset by migration, but it will change the entire structure. Right? With migration, we don't like outsiders when it comes to any country. Like let's say you're from States, you wouldn't like outsiders to come in and change your structure, right? It's just normal human behavior. Even if you would entertain it, cope with it, you wouldn't like it. That's majority. I'm not saying everyone, right? But that happens. Aging is the easiest thing to see. It's the next visible stage because you see age 65 plus, the projection by UN 2019 is 9.1%, right? 2050 it should be 16. So it's a big difference, not a small change within just a few years from where we are right now. So if we continue playing this game, this will be achieved. It will be achieved, right? Because it's a different civilization shape, different shape. Because there's a very different shape, right? Very different shape. So let's the shape is young workers doesn't exist or very low. Okay. Retirees high, but they have no energy. Then it comes to issues like healthcare. Who's gonna take care of old people if young workers are low? Doesn't make sense, right? So the social energy is very low. So there's nothing happening, you know? We all know that old people don't want to do anything. If you're old, would you want to do things? You probably just want to relax. So what happens then? So social energy doesn't exist in everywhere. So economic pressure is normal, right? So it comes to the middle. What happens to the middle, like between retirees and young workers? What happens to them? What do they do? A very small percentage of them. They don't know what to do. So no energy. So what happens? Everyone's crazy, right? So a few people form families, have kids. The future is very thin, right? Because you have no idea what's gonna happen. Feels like we're gonna be lost. You can see it from South Korea, right? You can see that okay, the young people, 1950, young people is the majority. 2024, the majority is the like 20, like 30 plus to 70. So that's the majority. And what will happen in 2100 is most of them are 70 or 80. And you can see that everything else got lower, right? Because it's inevitable for people to die, but people to be born, it's our own decision, right? Our free will to do it. But the game dictates that this doesn't exist. So we're playing the game right now. So right now, a simple idea that we're playing this dating game can lead to our entire civilization disappearing. It's just what it is, right? So people rank each other, or rank each other, like by visible status traits, not by character, not by a lot of things, not by ability to make peace, but they care about traits, like making a lot of money, being powerful, looking good, all that people care about. We know everyone's anxious these days, so this is what exactly it, right? Then everyone aim upwards, so everyone wants better version. Everyone wants that. So the commitment is optional. They can choose if they want to do it or not, right? Let's say this person is not better than them, they don't want to commit, so they don't want to do it. Yeah. And that's how sex become detached from responsibility. Just have sex for fun, casual, not for anything. Just to fulfill our desires. That's all. Right? So when young people think about children these they think of it as a burden, not a blessing. Okay. Or maybe a test for them, right? You think it's just a burden. It's gonna lower money, lower their happiness, but instead they chase money that isn't that, that is not real at first. You know, they don't create that stability in you, no matter how much money you have. Fact, right? Then status is the meaning of every relationship, right? Then if you don't want to play this game, don't date. You don't do anything because everyone playing this game. So this has created a really, really big problem within young people, right? Because if status is the meaning, nothing feels stable because status is never stable. Never. What does it bring you? It doesn't do anything, right? As we know that the money, the status, everything, it can go away anytime, right? But we know that, okay, having a family, developing your skills, becoming a better person with generosity, showing love, showing compassion, forgiving, it's all part of growing, becoming a better person. But these days, people wants people want being the comfort zone, being comfortable. So the status, it's what feels like the most comfortable thing to do, short term. End of the day, we will perish. And not very long time to go. I mean, by that time I'll probably not be, but the entire civilization will perish because of this game. And before that, a lot of things will happen because we keep playing this game. Everyone's involved, right? Everyone's an active participant. If you don't talk about this, you're not changing it. You're playing the game, it's, you're letting it happen. Same, same both ways. If participate or not, it's the same both ways. So the only way is to talk about it and change, at least for yourself, right? You have to break through the system. Not easy, but nothing comes easy anyways. So yeah, it's a test. Test is very much a test for us. We are comfortable in this. So what's the uncomfortable part of all this? Having kids, having families, having peace with your partner, and finding peace together. Love, compassion, mercy, all that matters. So yeah. All right. Any questions? Just drop it in the comments. If anyone's watching, honestly, this is basically just a place for me to articulate my thoughts. They are not 100% facts, but it's what I observe. Feel free to challenge me. Feel free to say whatever you want to say, because the logic of this whole channel is to say that, okay, this is how I ponder, right? So hear me out. That's about it. Okay. All right. I'll see you in the next video.